Convoys of troops and equipment steaming full speed through the South Pacific. Latest newsreel pictures of America's battle for her hard-won bases in the Solomon Islands.
Combat operations on Guadalcanal began in 1942 through till around about February 43. It ranged through the northern shore of Guadalcanal and Tulagi Islands before disappearing up to the other island chains to the north of Guadalcanal.
And then it went westwards, covering the islands of the Rassos, and then onwards to the Western Province and Choiseul Province. So those are probably the main areas that the war is being fought, and I think then it went over to Bougainville and then to Papua New Guinea.
There was large stockpiles around the islands once combat operations finished and the Second World War was officially over. The munitions still remained stockpiled. To dispose of them with everyone perhaps wishing to get off the island and out of the theatre. A lot of these were invariably sea dumped, which in those days was a recognised disposal method for EOD, but a lot of those still remain. It's not necessarily in deep water, some into shallow towards the deep water. It's predominantly US ordnance with probably about 30 to 40% being Japanese, and it's ranging from projectile fuses right up through grenades, mortars, projectiles. There's some torpedoes that are out just offshore, and a lot of naval gunfire projectiles, 12, 14-inch in caliber.
Suspected chemical or plastic gas.
The presence of UXOs in the islands is now becoming a matter of concern for our communities and also for the government. People find these things in their gardens, and they are afraid that they might go off if they are burnt or if they are being hit by a sharp object.
When I do my gardening here, I find a lot of bombs. The Japanese, Allied forces, and the Americans, they left the bomb here after World War II.
The most concern is because people now are cutting the UXO. They sell these explosives to people that are killing fish by explosives. The thing that we are now concerned about is that they can use it on people.
Well, we've got intruders that do come into Hell's Point and various other storage areas within Solomon Islands. And this is where locals have come over the perimeter fence and just scratch around in the undergrowth, which you don't have to go very far to start finding stuff. And there's a whole array of 40mm projectiles, which they're not interested in because they're too small, so it doesn't give enough explosive inside. They're taking away munitions that are 75mm in caliber and above to take out the main fill, so that in itself is a dangerous undertaking with fused items. They're then putting them into small water bottles, the 330 millilitre type plastic bottles, with a crude fusing system, throwing them into the sea to catch large numbers of fish. The problem with that is a lot of the fish don't die, therefore it's a waste of resources, and more importantly they're destroying the environment and the coral reefs that abound in the Solomons itself. So the making of these fish bombs is dangerous, and then once they're throwing them in the sea with such a crude fusing system, invariably they've been known to detonate whilst in the guy's hands.
Most of the cases are related to fishing accidents. Either at the time when the fishermen go and try to cut open the bomb, or when they are actually doing fishing. They have this explosive in the hand, they're throwing it, and the timing is not correct, and it explodes on their body, or it causes an amputation.
Given age and the degradation of the shells of these cases, once they do rust through, which takes quite a while, but then these chemical munitions will leach and cause a toxic inhalation absorption problem with the local population.
The presence of UXO in the islands is causing a delay in development because now people are afraid to invest money in the country because of the presence of UXO, and now they need to be taken away. Also, we know that where there is presence of UXO, the land is contaminated, and it may not be good for agriculture, or may not be good for safe farming. And also it destroys the reef where the fish live, and it also kills the very little fish. It doesn't choose what fish to kill. It kills everything. So it really destroys the reef system. In the long term, if we can have the UXOs cleared, I think it will attract more investment. It will attract more people coming to Solomon Islands and building up country. So for us, the long-term benefit for us is probably big if we are able to get rid of UXO that's lying around throughout the country.
In Hell's Point, prior to 2011, there was a ad hoc EOD team within the RSIPF, but it relied upon very ad hoc training by various countries' military, predominantly the US and the Australian military, coming in, doing some training for a number of weeks and then disappearing. So in conjunction with the United States Department of State and the Australian Defence Department, the project was established for Golden West to come in to then train these guys up to International Mine Action Standards, EOD Level 2, specifically for World War II munitions. The team is currently 17 man strong. They're all serving Royal Solomon Island Police Force members. A normal response task is generated by the public. If they have a piece of unexploded ordnance, they'll report it to the police HQ, who will then telephone the EOD team for response. EOD team, all our responses is within 24 hours, if not sooner. More often than not, it's within 2 hours. Get to the task site, deal with the munition. The locals, the informant would be there. So there's a lot of positive cooperation with the locals, and I believe they feel safe that with the EOD team on site, that the unexploded item is dealt with quickly, responsibly, and in a respectful manner. Each item that is either brought from a response task or out of the bush here in Hells Point is subjected to X-ray, and the reason we're doing that is predominantly to find which munitions have got a white phosphorus fill. The high explosive fills is put to one side, the white phosphorus to the other. All white phosphorus rounds are explosively detonated during demolitions, whereas the high explosive rounds, anything over 75mm caliber, is cut remotely, and then the fill is burnt out in our demolition pits. This again cuts down on the amount of bulk demolitions or bulk explosives that we need for demolition. One of the major breakthroughs that Golden West Humanitarian Foundation has evolved from is that they've produced a binary liquid explosive, which is, you know, a lot cheaper than buying bulk plastic explosive donor charges, and we often use the binary explosive to destroy the smaller caliber items, and also on render safe procedures. If, for instance, an ordnance has still got a fuse on, which is unsafe to move, then we use the binary explosives to basically knock the fuse off that ordnance before we can then move it to Hells Point for destruction. This is brought down the costs for the donor significantly, which is allowing that cash to be spent more on the ground than logistical and, for instance, importation duties of bulk explosives.
Firing. 3, 2, 1, 0.
This was a US ordnance depot after combat operations, ready for the island hop towards Tokyo, where millions of UXO was stored. And then, unfortunately, in November '43, a grass fire swept through here, burnt for about 3 days, sending a lot of the stored ammunition up, and then they came down mostly unexploded. So Hells Point is probably the most contaminated area within the Solomon Islands, but it's not through combat operations. But it still presents a public safety issue, and the EOD team that we have here, as well as doing response tasks on public areas in the Solomons, they are clearing areas within Hells Point, and that's to try and deny the fish bombers, or the dynamite fishing bombers, their resources to UXO to take out the main thing. None of the other provinces within Solomon Islands outside of Guadalcanal hasn't been visited that often through logistical reasons, from the RSIPF EOD team. So they've been neglected for a while, and there's huge stockpiles and response tasks that are waiting to be dealt with. However, if funding and international interest of the Solomon Islands wasn't an issue, then, you know, possible larger clearance operations. However, a national authority, national mine action standards would have to be established within the Solomon Islands government for that to occur.
There is still a lot of work in terms of governance and in terms of proper legislation, and also establishment of an authority to say, yes, this land is being cleared. This land is not yet cleared, or this land is cleared, but I think we still have issues in it. It might not require the EOD team itself to do the clearance, but to act as a governing body on EOD.
The annual Pacific Island Forum has already discussed and agreed that a regional approach, national mine action standard, can be visited, and then from those default standards, each country then amends particular parts of the national standards to suit their own needs. That has yet to been achieved, but that go a long way to provide a baseline for further clearance operations in the future.
The next logical step is to find out what the extent of the problem is and how now does it impact on the big developments. Then I think we should be able to work more strategically to ensure that the areas that require clearing for big development are cleared, and probably government can also now seek assistance from international donors to support the clearance work and before development can continue.